Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to talk about breaking down our goals. One of the most common questions I get is, how do I break down my goals? Because if you have been around, I am always telling you to break your goals down into smaller steps. And that the best way to achieve your goals is to break it down into smaller steps. But then the question I get back is, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to break my goals down. It is overwhelming. I don't know where to start. And then we get so frustrated with not being able to break our goals down that we never get started at all. And so in this video, I'm gonna give you 5 tips, which include some prior videos that I have shared before, but this is kind of a summary and where to start when it comes to breaking down your goals. So number 1 is a really important reminder that I myself struggled with for a long time, especially if you use something like the power sheets that have these like big pages for you to break down your goals. You do not need to know the entire plan to get started. You don't need to know every step from A to Z on that particular goal to take step A. You just need to really know step A. Now, is it helpful to maybe get steps A, B, C, D? Yes. But it is not necessary to break down the entire goal from start to finish in order to get started. You don't need all the steps, you just need the first step. This really comes to fruition for me when it comes to business related things. There's a lot of stuff about running a business that I don't know. And I get really stuck at getting started on a goal if I don't feel like I know all the steps to finish the entire goal. But most of the time, I either learn what those steps are along the way, or I learn the best resources to discover those steps as I start working on those goals. And so what I found is I just need the first 3. I work on getting what are the first 3 steps that I need to do, and let me do those first. And if at the end of those first 3, I still don't know where to go, well then I will start doing some more research. But it doesn't do me any good to sit there and just research and research and research, because maybe those steps will change once I do steps 1, 2, and 3. In fact, I have wasted time in the past making a whole plan for a goal and then not following through on it. That is also something that happened to me with wedding planning. I made this whole plan and did a lot of extra research on at what month do you do this and at what month do you do that. And instead of just taking action and picking something off the list and getting started, I was so caught up with doing it in the right order at the right time, and then the wedding got postponed and it didn't matter anyways. So don't worry about the entire plan and having it all mapped out. What is the next right step, and get started. Number 2 is to watch this video right here, where I talk about the 4 ways to break down your goals. Over the years, breaking down my own goals and helping the community break down theirs, I have learned really the 4 methods to breaking down your goals. And what's hard is it's not the same for every goal. And then what makes it even harder is that there are layers, right? You might pick one of the 4 methods to break down the first layer of your goal, and then there might be another layer, and even maybe another layer or 2, but you have to start at least with layer 1. And so don't try, again, to worry about all of the layers and all of the steps until you at least start with the first one. So if you haven't watched that video or you haven't watched it in a long time, go back and watch that video, refresh your brain on the 4 ways to break down your goals, and then save that video so that when it comes time to break down a new goal, maybe it's coming up during a quarterly refresh, or maybe you won't even need it till December when you're breaking down next year's goals, but have that video handy, because that one is so valuable when you're looking at a goal and you have no idea where to start. Tip number 3 is to write down all of the steps, even if you know what they are in your head. I just recently went through this with someone that I was coaching, and this is something that I personally also struggle with, and seeing it happen for her made me I need to include that in a video somewhere. When we are working on something that we know really well, right? I talked about the business stuff and steps that I don't know really well, but there are pieces of the business that I know really well, right? Like getting up a YouTube video or setting up all of my Patreon stuff every month, right? There are things that I know really well. And I will not write down all the steps, even because part of it, because it doesn't feel like a goal to me. But even if there is a goal or something that I know really well, I'll be like, well, I know them. They're in my head. I have all the steps in my head. And then you either forget a step, or you don't realize how long that the goal is going to take you, or you don't feel accomplished because you're not seeing yourself check off all of those intermediate steps. For this particular project, she does this digital paper art. I can't even explain it. It's beautiful and amazing. She has so much talent. But there are steps to the projects that she works on that she just knows. She just knows what the steps are because she's been doing it for so long. But when she doesn't write them down, she feels like she hasn't made any progress on that goal. And so I encouraged her to write down all the steps, even though she knows what they are, even though they're in her head. And it was amazing how much more accomplished she felt when she was able to check those off. So even if you know them, you know what the steps are, write them all down. Write down all of the little steps and give yourself credit for all of those. And it also helps you from forcing your brain to rely on your memory when it comes to, oh, what is the next step? Instead of having to take the time and the mental energy to dig up that next step, it's just right there in front of you on the breakdown page. A secondary tip here, so tip like 3B, is a reminder that decisions count as steps. It is so easy to forget how many decisions we make when it comes to our goals. So many decisions. And those count as steps. Like actually making the decision takes mental energy and effort from you to make that decision. So if you can make that decision either when you're breaking down the goal or when you are scheduling time for that goal or when you're in a better headspace or have more energy, you are going to be so much more successful. My best example of this is me working out. If I let in the morning Laken, 6 a.m. Laken, make the decision on what Peloton classes she was doing that day, she would probably make the decision to not do any of them. So what I do is I make the decisions a month in advance. I plan out the entire month of what Peloton workouts I'm gonna be doing for that month so that in the morning, I don't have to make that decision because that's a step towards achieving that goal. Working out is not just working out. That's not the only piece of that action step in the morning. It's changing clothes, making a decision to pick out the clothes, which I don't do a month in advance, but I will do it the night before. And I know it is not that much work to open up my workout clothes drawer and pick out what my workout clothes are gonna be for that day, but it is one more decision that I have to make to get myself on that bike. So if I can make that one the night before, what am I wearing? Then all I have to do in the morning, and I already made the decision about what class I'm doing, I have to put on the clothes and then get on the bike. And that's it. So remembering that the decisions, all those decisions, that's part of the breakdown. That's part of the steps, making a lot of decisions. So when you are breaking down your goals, keep that in mind. And the more that you can make those decisions in advance, the better. Tip number 4 is to watch this video. So I made a video, this is a much older video, about how I break down my goals, showing how I use mind maps. I talked about those layers before, how there are a bunch of different layers. And yeah, I'm recommending the videos in opposite order because I realize now that the types of breakdown need to come before the layers, but how I use mind maps to break down my goals. That is my favorite way to break it down. Even if it only has one little bubble off of it, it is still so beneficial for me to visually see it that way, especially if you're a visual person. And so I just really like that setup for breaking down my goals. So if you haven't been able to watch that video because you've joined us since I posted that or it's been a while, I highly recommend going back and watching that video as well. And then tip number 5 is to always go back and check in with your breakdowns. We spend a lot of time in December, or maybe you spent a lot of time in December breaking down our goals and setting up these action plans. But how often are you setting aside time to go back in and check with those breakdowns? I am completely guilty of this as well. When I start planning for the next month and picking the action steps for the next month, I will have jotted down ideas throughout the month. I will think about what it is that I want to work on the next month, and I will sometimes make a whole tending list for my power sheets without even looking at my annual goal breakdowns. And then sometimes I go back to look at them and I'm like, oh, I had come up with another step. I could have done that step. Like, I spent so much time breaking down my goals in December, and then I don't even use any of that information throughout the year unless I'm very diligent about reminding myself to go back and check with those goal breakdowns that I created. So I would encourage you to do this at least quarterly when you're working on your quarterly goals, if not monthly, when you are setting up your action steps for the following month. Check back in with your annual goal breakdowns. Make sure that there's nothing that you want to make sure you include, or you can add to the breakdown, right? Maybe you came up with some more ideas, you can add those. Maybe there's something you realize you know how to break down further now. You can break those down further. But just taking the time to check in with those action plans can be so beneficial to the overall breakdown of your goals. It's just, I'll never remember to do it, myself included. Hopefully those tips were helpful. I know that breaking down goals can be so difficult and overwhelming, but it is so important to making progress and to achieving your goals. And if you feel like you have a goal that you are struggling to break down, maybe you feel like you've gotten stuck or you haven't even gotten started because breaking it down feels so overwhelming, maybe one-on-one coaching is a good fit for you, because breaking down goals is one of the key pieces to one-on-one coaching. It's all of session 2. We spend breaking down your goal, and then every single week talking about, okay, how did those action steps go? Did they work? Should we change them going into the next week? And we basically spend time breaking down the goal every single week as we pick the action steps for the next week. So if that sounds like some support that you could use on a particular goal, apply to work with me one-on-one. Send me a message. Let's see if it's a good fit for you for whatever goal that it is that you have in mind, because I know that it can be so frustrating to have a goal and have a really good reason why you want to work on that goal, but just not knowing how to break it down. Again, I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for watching. And the key to achieving your goals is to having small. I batch it and do it all for the month. Why can't I explain this? Hopefully those tips will help you together. Might be